Welcome to another exciting episode of Global Agro Connect podcast with Akajusha Salvation, the Agro King. Today's podcast is going to be actually something different because we're going to be addressing an issue that is concerning the entire globe, like something that affects the earth, right? And I can see United Nations are actually battling it seriously today, and I think it's best we too in Africa should actually look into it because whether we like this or not, this problem is actually intruding, is actually coming into Nigeria, but it's gradually into Africa, actually taking effect on several aspects of our atmosphere, several aspects of our temperature. So let's actually get or sit down, listen, or better still, try to pay attention as the podcast or as the topic of the podcast is being analyzed. The topic today is global warming, or would I say climate change. Now, several of us must have heard of this, must have heard of global warming, must have heard of climate change. I think that's very common. You must have seen it online as several NGOs are campaigning or are actually trying to make serious efforts to make sure that we mitigate the effect. And on this topic, on this podcast, we're going to be finding out how trees or planting of trees help to cushion the effect, or would I say mitigate the effect of global warming on the environment, on the climate, right? Okay. And at the end of this podcast, if you would have any questions you would like us to answer, you can actually channel them on our comment section, or better still, message us directly on Facebook or Instagram, which our handles are displayed below. And if you would love to subscribe or to show appreciation for the podcast, you can do so by subscribing to the channel and as well as liking the podcast. All right, thank you very much, and let's delve into the podcast. From 1906 to 2005, the average global temperature rose by 0.74 degrees Celsius, which most of the warming occurred since 1970. Alright, by 2015, the average global temperature had warmed by over 1 degree Celsius since pre-industrial times. Now, 16 of the 17 warmest years on record have been in 21st century. Studies have actually shown that some areas with crucial importance, like around the poles, are warming at 2 to 3 times the global average temperature. Now, what really are we talking about? What really is global warming? What really is climate change? Now, global warming or climate change is the rise in average surface temperature on Earth, right? This is due to the use of fossil fuels, which emits carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And on this podcast, we'll be discussing 3 causes. We're going to be stating 3 causes of this climate change. All right. Now, first cause of climate change is the increase in the use of fossil fuels. Example of these fossil fuels are the oil and gas to generate electricity, to run cars, and to transport other transport medium and power manufacturing industries. Right. The second cause I actually have here is deforestation. This is very important. Now, cutting down of trees which are meant to have positive impact on the environment. Now, we have trees such as nitrogen fixing trees and other trees that actually help combat all trees actually help combat climate change. Now, when these trees are cut down, we end up exposing the environment to several other hazardous conditions, such as the erosion, such as flooding, and several other issues that we end up exposing our environment to whenever we cut down trees. Now, the third cause is increasingly intensive agriculture, which emits greenhouse gases like methane and nitrous oxide. Now, if you're a farmer, especially livestock farmers, always understand that the way you dispose of your poultry dung, your piggery dung, and other dungs or other waste is actually very important. Most of the times we don't take this into consideration and we just dump them anyhow. Now, the methane gases that actually occur or that emit out of this dung is actually going into the atmosphere. Now, if you don't have enough trees to actually absorb these gases, we actually end up contributing negatively to climate change. Even on the fact that we have trees, we have to have proper measures that we dispose such waste, or better still, use them as renewable energy. We can actually channel these things into gases, all right, or use them to produce biogases that we can use to fuel. But it's better still than exposing it to the atmosphere, or better still, if you know you can't do that, all right, you can as well bury them, and once they are decay and all the gases are off, you can actually use them back for your manure or whatever you want to make use of them for. So, but exposing such to the atmosphere and other practices in agriculture that are intense on the environment can actually contribute negatively or can actually contribute to climate change. Today's industrialized countries, such as New Zealand, have built their economies on burning fossil fuel to provide electricity, transport, and to develop industries. Studies have shown that an average New Zealander emits over 16 tons of greenhouse gases every year, more than the average European and over twice the average Chinese person emission. Alright, now we can see how much greenhouse gases are being emitted yearly and how the effect is. Now, New Zealand is one of the 30 biggest per capita emitters in the world, and their emissions are still growing. Now, it is projected to have grown by 32 to 37% from 1990 to 2020. So what is the way forward? We've seen what climate change is, we've known the causes, and we've known some countries which actually emit loads of these greenhouse gases. But what is the way forward? What can we as individuals do? What can we as organizations do? What are we as NGOs do to actually help cushion the effect or to mitigate the effect of climate change? Now, in the beginning of this episode, I actually said we're going to be talking about how trees, planting of trees. But aside planting of trees, we also have switching from fossil fuels, all right, to 100% renewable energy. And this actually doesn't have to, it's not an easy task, okay, all right, because one way or the other, you can't actually give all those in the rural areas, all right, gases to make use of, or would you say provide them with such energy at a short period of time. Right, you still get them making use of firewood. Some farmers still need time to adjust to these things, and I would say the best thing to do is take on the second option. Right, the second option, which I mentioned there, is planting of trees. Now, as many trees as we would have is actually going to help in a long way, in a large way, to actually mitigate the effect of climate change. Planting of trees can help to stop climate change by removing carbon dioxide from the air, storing carbon in the trees and soil, and releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. Now, aside this, trees actually provide many benefits for us today. They actually offer cooling shade, they block cold, winter wind, they attract birds and wildlife, they purify our air, which is very important, prevent soil erosion, clean our water, and beautifies our home and environment or our communities. So we've seen several effects ranging from the purification of the air we breathe in, attraction of birds and wildlife, they support life. Now, offering the cooling or shade effect, blocking of cold and winter winds, and beautification. So trees actually have tons and tons of importance. Now, this is just a few I mentioned, and there are several trees that actually serve as nitrogen fixing trees that help to actually build up or recover nitrogen, build up nitrogen in the soil. We have leguminous trees that actually serve that purpose. So there are several other trees that actually help do several things to the environment that, unknown to us, we actually cut them down not knowing how important they are. But today you're listening and you've heard how important these trees are. And to be truthful, this climate change or global warming we are talking about is not something that we should joke about. Each and every one of us should have would I say an active part, okay, in trying as much as possible to curb the effect of this global crisis. All right, so planting of trees is cheap and easy way to fight climate change, and the important part is everyone can plant a tree, being a child, an adult, an old person. We all can take a part, we all can have a part in trying to mitigate this global crisis and its effect on us. All right, so comment below if you are willing to fight global warming by putting or planting up a tree. All right, comment below. Let's know, are you willing, are you ready to actually help combat this crisis? Are you ready to actually help fight global warming by planting a tree? You have a large expanse of land, please plant 1 or 2 trees. You have a compound or a house and you still have enough spaces, why don't you just plant a tree? All right, it does no harm. It will actually help. In fact, it does more good, all right, to your house, to your environment than harm. So why don't you plant a tree? Every space, available space you have that would not affect what you love to use that place for. Small space, plant a tree. There are several trees that doesn't occupy a large expanse of your environment, large expanse of your house. In fact, it would offer a more beautiful look to your environment than you can imagine by the time you start getting its benefits on your environment. Thank you very much for listening once again. I am Akajusha Salvation. Any questions, channel it to the comment section. You would love to follow us on social media handles. Our Facebook is at Global Agro Connect, right? And our Instagram is at gac.2020. So thank you very much once again, and enjoy the rest of your day.